So I really do believe that our future is going to be one that sustains us, one that is devoid of racism and all of the isms that bring us down. I'm just hopeful and prayerful that those things will happen for our future generations because it's really a life or death situation.
Thank you for tuning into The Real Storytellers. This space was created to allow you to meet some real ones, those engaging in racial and social justice work, and to allow you to cultivate your own journey. These members are real, their stories are real, and their work is anchored in everything the real movement represents. Welcome to The Real Storytellers. We have a special guest with us today, Fatimah Hayes. Fatima, welcome. Please tell us who you are and or what you do.
Hi, Angel. Thank you. Like Angel said, my name is Fatimah Hayes. I'm an educator in Pennsauken Public School District. I've been there now for about 19 years. I currently teach high school students U.S. History 1 and 2. I received my BA degree from Rutgers University in Camden, New Jersey, and then proceeded to go get a master's degree in school counseling from Wilmington University. I'm a proud mom of a 26-year-old daughter, and I really just love what I do. As far as union work is concerned, I've been involved probably since before I was tenured, right? And I've gone through anything from being the AR in my local association to writing the newsletter to eventually becoming the president. So as I sit here, I'm the immediate past president of the Pennsauken Education Association. I am also the chair of the Women in Ed Committee. And recently, in the past year and a half, I am a Univerv Consultant out of Region 3, which is also Camden County. So, yeah, I'm enjoying what I'm doing so far. Yeah,
that's great. Thank you for sharing all of that information about yourself. I sit on the Women in Ed Committee with you for NJEA. You're doing a wonderful job, so keep up the great work. And moving forward, I want to ask you, can you share a story about a time when you knew you wanted to become a professional educator?
Okay, so my story is not a straightforward down the line path to education. When I first entered college, I thought I was going to be an accountant. So I was an accounting major, and I actually was a part of an organization called Inroads, which it's a program out of Philadelphia with that engages students who are entering college, students of color, and their goal was to diversify corporate America. So my first job, like real job, real paycheck, was at Consolidated Rail, Conrail, which is now CSX, because they were bought out by them. So I spent my summers working for Conrail, a railroad, right, in their accounting department for the majority of my time in college, and I didn't like it. I would say I really hated it, the cubicle, and it just wasn't for me. It wasn't personable, and I really had to think about things as far as I was a young mom, and I just wasn't sure that being a mom and being in corporate America, that those two things jived and allowed me to have enough time with my daughter. And so I'll never forget, I had to tell our staff, we were set up with a staff member that was kind of like your mentor. And I had to call her because I was keeping a secret that I had already changed my major to history and education. And I knew the transcripts were coming soon, and you had to maintain, you had to be enrolled in something as far as business, right? And so I was like, before she gets this transcript, I gotta call her, right? So I'm on a payphone, so I'm dating myself, right? And I'm making a call to her, and I'm like, I want to be a teacher. And she was like, everybody says that this is where the money is. They're going to hire. It's very likely that they'll hire you once you graduate. You're going to make more money than anybody in your family. You really need to consider this. And, and I cried and I cried, right? But when I finished crying, it was like a weight lifted off of me. And I walked out of that job and I never turned back around. Like I was like, I'm done. And I didn't have any regrets. I was already taking a ton of like history courses anyway. So I really didn't miss any time. I didn't miss any time at all. I still graduated on time, even though I changed my major. But that was my way into education. That corporate training, which was really almost like a assimilation boot camp, just it just turned me off from corporate America, and I found my way to education, and I haven't looked back yet.
You know what's amazing, Fatima? I'm sitting here listening to your story, and I'm like, I think as women, our stories are so aligned more times than not, because I didn't necessarily study education in undergrad, but after graduating with a business degree in business and economics, I found out my senior year after graduation, I was pregnant with my son almost like the month after. And I had a job offer in Florida to work in corporate America. And I had to make a decision as to whether I wanted to relocate and go there and raise a child by myself or stay here. And I ultimately decided to stay here, and I had a friend in education at the time. And so my story is very similar in thinking about what was going to be best for me as a mother and trying to spend as much time with my child as possible. And I really do believe as women, more times than not, we've chosen this profession because it really worked for us in terms of raising a family. And we were going to have that time to be there at home after school to, assist them with whatever they needed. So that's very interesting that, you shared all of that. I just wanted to really point that out because I'm sure more of us can resonate with that than you would actually think. So in moving forward, I want to ask, in your work as an educator, can you share a story about the moment you became aware that racial equity is critical to the work we do?
So for the majority of my career, I've worked in Pennsauken. My very first year in Pennsauken, I was risked, right? And I spent 1 year in another school district, but I had built a really good relationship, I feel like, with my supervisor. So I found my way back. But in both school districts, the population was students of color. However, the staff was not reflective of that. And I found in both places, even students that I did not teach would seek me out, hang it around my doorway, come in the morning and hang out, right? And at first I didn't really understand why. And then as they built relationship, right, and got comfortable with me and I guess started to trust me, they started to share things with me about things that were happening in the school. And those things, now we have words for them like microaggressions and just racist things and policies that were happening around me. And coming from that corporate training, right, where you saw that a lot, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, when corporate America was really trying to diversify, it was tough because I was like the only in my department. And I was young, and they knew I was there because of like a quota type of system. So there was always like little digs and little things said. But when I found myself in education, I realized that a lot of those same issues were in our schoolhouses as well. So in corporate America, it was like we needed to assimilate. And in education, I saw that as well. In our discipline policies and our students having to wear uniforms and, in the mandate to comply all the time. I started in education in 2001, and over the course of that time, I've seen police and security increase in our schools, but I haven't seen an increase in, fights and violence. But all of those things seem to come about when we're in school districts with students of color. And so I guess because those students would seek me out, because they saw my room as, as a safe space, a safe haven for them. I knew that it was critical, that it was extremely important that we think about racial and social justice, that my students see themselves in a curriculum. Some of them had poor feelings about who and what they were. There were like concerns about making sure that they knew that they themselves are enough, and how they come and how they present themselves is fine. Because some of them would tell me, I just want educators to teachers in this school to say good morning. Because I was finding that people were saying, take your hoodie off, pull your pants up, before they said good morning, before they said, how are you? Before they said, do you want to eat breakfast this morning? You know, like how those kind of care and concern. And I was like, what are we doing to our kids? Because to our young people, because they need to feel like, and I taught middle school, and I think middle school is like a critical age when students are not sure of who and what they are. And as a students of color especially, I think it's so important that we have to reinforce who and affirm who and what they are. And if we're always saying that who you are and how you show up is not right, there's something wrong with it, I think that messaging, it does hurt them in the classroom and academically and their confidence and understanding that how brilliant they are, and do we say that enough? And so I think my need just came from that when I saw how many Black boys were being placed in special education, when I saw how many were being referred for doing like just joyous childhood, you know, age and stage appropriate behaviors, but because of their complexion, it was like
they're viewed differently. It's just that they're viewed more harshly and more is expected of them.
And I'm like, they are being children. This is what kids do. And we are punishing them for doing things that are appropriate for their age and stage. And so that's really when it came to me like, it's work that needs to be done here. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's very important to think about environment. You know, it's unfortunate that depending on where you grow up, you know, and a lot of us can't control the circumstances that we're born into, but where you grow up absolutely speaks to a degree who you are, or at least we believe that initially. And so I remember an experience in high school. Actually, I went to Orange High School, and it wasn't in the best town. You know, it's the hood. You want to, you know, really refer to it as that. But we had an opportunity our senior year to have this interactive class space with a class from Glenridge High School, which was a predominantly white neighborhood. And, you know, we spoke at least once a week in that class, and at one point decided to interact face to face. So we had the opportunity to visit their school, and it was like a smack in the face to see the difference between our environments, just the way that you enter the school building each day, what it looks like, what's accessible to you. It definitely, I can see how, you know, they feel as if they're better in a way, you know, sometimes, where then you go back to your little hole and then you say, wow, we have to deal with this, while there's students in the world who actually have these other things, and their environment is just completely different. And then to have them at some point visit our school, their experience was kind of like, wow, like, you know, we didn't know it was like this. Like, you guys just had one floor, like you don't have two floors. You know, there was a whole lot of comparisons, and not in necessarily the best way, but it absolutely speaks to the differences in the neighborhoods, depending on, you know, the predominant makeup of the city. It really does impact the school system and how they decide to structure it. And it's really unfortunate that Black and brown kids have to deal, unfortunately, with over policing. There's jails inside the high schools. You know, like you said, walking through the door, not even being greeted, but immediately being told what they're doing wrong. And a lot of those things do have to change. So I agree with you. So thank you for sharing that. Now, when thinking about the future, what does that look like? How does the real movement influence that future?
Oh, well, I know it's cliche to say, but I do believe that our future is bright. And although I kind of take it on as, I normally say I'm optimistic, but I'm also like guarded in that optimism. But I know and understand that how important hope is in a movement. And so it would be unfair for me to do this work thinking that the end is not going to be successful, right? Because we have to speak life into what we're doing. We have to say that we have to dream it, we have to live it, right? And we have to be optimistic that we can and we will change things. So I really do believe that our future is going to be one that sustains us, one that is devoid of racism and all of the isms that bring us down. I'm just hopeful and prayerful that those things will happen for our future generations, because it's really a life or death situation. If we don't get this right, like we haven't been getting it right, and people have lost their lives because of it. And it's time for that to stop. And I know that in building up this system has taken years and years, and I know that it's going to take years for us to dismantle it. But I would just want to leave this place, this earthly place, better than the way I came into it. So I know that that's part of my responsibility as a human being on this planet. So I can't do anything but dream big and believe that it could happen. You know, I never believed I'd see the things that I've seen today. I never thought there would be a Black president. Never thought there would be a woman and a Black woman, Asian woman as our VP. I really, and you know how you, as a kid, they tell you could be anything you want to be. I just don't think I'll ever see a Black president, right? I just didn't think so. And to see that in my lifetime, to see a woman in the second highest position in our country, in our nation, it just wowed me. And now I really, sometimes you gotta see it to believe it. And I know we're supposed to have faith, but sometimes you gotta see it too. It's made me a believer. And so I just say our future is bright.
Absolutely. And as you were talking, all I could do was sit there and say, oh my goodness, I resonate with everything that Fatima is saying, because one thing I always share with people when we talk about, you know, what the future looks like is the fact that right now we're still living amongst people who were there dealing with segregation and dealing with Jim Crow laws. Like, we're not too far removed from that. Like, there's grandparents and great grandparents still living who are out there spitting on our people, sicking dogs on them. Like, those people are still living and breathing. And then they're in a household with children and teaching that same thing to their children. But the great thing is we have brave young people who are willing to, in a lot of circumstances, stand up to their parents and grandparents and great grandparents and say, no, that's not right. That's not the way. And so them being exposed to more through the media, them being exposed to more through social media, and understanding that the way that things were in the past don't have to be the way that they are in the future, I think is going to be changing. And it may not happen in our generation. We may not see everything come to fruition now, but I do think in the next generations to come, things will look completely different, and hopefully we'll be able to have our ancestors' dreams really, really look the way that we intend for them to look. Fatima, thank you again. And for all of you watching, to learn more about the Real Movement, please visit the website real.njea.org. Until next time, peace.